Hey everybody, welcome back to another special report here at Tavern Talks. Today we have another amazing product that's currently coming out and is currently out in Kickstarter as we speak, called the Godzilla role-playing game. I don't know about you, but I got to play this thing at PAX Unplugged with Sam, and it was incredible. So we had to reach back out and find out more details. Ellen, Chad, welcome to the show. Hopefully we can really dig into what the project was here, because Godzilla, it's a giant monster terrorizing Tokyo or wherever you want to bring it to.
And a monster of a franchise.
Yes, absolutely. So kind of, if you don't mind, give us kind of some backstory. How did you decide Godzilla was a RPG to create?
And feel free with that backstory to say, hi, I'm Ellen, and this is the company that I work for.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get it. We'll introduce ourselves. Hi, I'm Ellen. I am the games manager at IDW and also the lead editor on Godzilla, the role-playing game. So I am going to be here to talk to you about a bunch of creative stuff alongside my kind of co-lead of the department, Chad. Chad, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi guys, I'm Chad. I'm specialty product manager and the operations side of our games department at IDW.
Yeah, and then your question was like, how did we decide Godzilla?
Yeah.
So when we decided we wanted to begin bringing back new original games through IDW, we had done games in the past, like board games, but we wanted to step into something like TTRPGs because IDW Publishing is a book and comics publisher first and foremost, and RPG games are based mainly around books and printed content. So that's very much in our wheelhouse. So we knew we wanted to do TTRPGs, and we have such a long-standing and fantastic relationship with Toho that when we were looking at the different properties we work on, the different properties we own, or either as original content or that we work with a licensor for, Godzilla was a clear, fun first choice, just because we have such a great positive relationship with Toho. And also, if you think about it, I don't know another property that's basically a classic RPG setting as much as Godzilla is. Like, Godzilla is heroes fighting big monsters, and when you break it down to its minimal parts. So we thought it was just such a natural fit. I thought it would have a lot of appeal to RPG players, and of course there'd be Godzilla fans who'd be interested in playing an RPG. Also, a big part of it is other licenses we work with have done RPGs in the past, and we wanted to do something that was like specific and new that we could like really break ground on. So it just felt like a great choice, and we've been really happy with it so far.
Yeah, like I said, it was awesome when we got to play it. So I've nothing but kudos on that end. And then one of the cool things about the special report is that our audiences, they come in to see this special report. They're going to ask questions. We're going to try to answer those as much as possible. Now, do know, because this is a Kickstarter and it's not fully out into retail yet, there could be questions that might not be able to be answered, but we'll try to answer as much as we can. That's why we bring the experts in. I presume the players are playing humans, or is this a monster protag version?
Oh, absolutely. So great question. This is a question we knew we were going to answer as soon as we started talking about this. For us, while Godzilla franchises, obviously the kaiju are central. They are like the tent poles of a Godzilla story. When you're looking back at classic Godzilla stories, it's still about the human characters fighting and trying to survive that. So we wanted the players and the main narratives or the campaigns, the pre-written modules, to be written around you playing a human character who is fighting back against a kaiju attack. That being said, we knew people were going to want to play kaiju. So the first thing I say is, if you really want to play a kaiju and that is going to be your thing, have you considered being a DM? Because that is the exact role of a DM, and maybe this is your calling. And this is how we're going to get you. We're always trying to get new DMs out there. So get on the other side of that screen and start running some adventures if you really want to be a kaiju full time. That being said, we do have an alt rule set that accounts for all players at the table, or some players at the table who are not the DM, playing or running a kaiju, either temporarily or for like a one-shot battle. And there's a range of experiences in this. So it covers everything from like a player versus player, kaiju versus kaiju battling over a city to the death, or to the rampage, whoever destroys the most buildings. But we also have versions where it's like, oh, if you are a player character who maybe there's an antagonist, or sorry, a kaiju that has allied with your team of humans, like a Mothra type, a benevolent kaiju that has temporary allied with your human players to help with the problem. You as the DM might decide that, like, oh well, I'll let a player run that character. So we have a range of rule options available for your situation.
That's a new one, because we didn't hear about any of that at PAX
And one thing that has me very excited, and this will be ideally a fun question for both you, Ellen, and Chad. It sounds as though there's going to be mechanics to create your own kaiju, because of course there has to be. By means of playtesting that, do either of you have like a really fun, this is never going to work, but my God, do I love it because I made it, story about a kaiju that was created at work?
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think. So when I built it, I didn't, well, not when I built it, when I was reviewing it, I didn't look through and like build them. I more just like was looking through each individual one and like reading holistically the whole process. But I'm trying to think if I can like think of an ability I'm particularly excited about. Oh, I'll say one that I'm really excited about is actually less about kaiju generation, but adventure generation related to the adventures, where it's like we have an adventure generator chapter as well, paired with the kaiju generator chapter. And one of my favorite things in that chapter is it talks about kaiju objectives, right? So if you're going into a city, like, what is your kaiju trying to just do here? Like, are they going to protect a nest, recover something, blah, blah, blah? Or are they just trying to like escape? And my favorite objective in that list is, I think it's like total destruction. And the entire, like, some of them are like, you're trying to complete a ritual, or you're avoiding capture, or you're fighting a rival. And this one's like, you want to destroy all buildings and then leave the field. And I find that really charming. And then the other ones in there are like, it talks about locations that your kaiju might interact with that would become objectives in an adventure. For instance, and one of the ones I thought that was so smart that the writers, Jervis Johnson, Mark A. Latham, and Gavin Thorpe pulled out was this idea that like certain types of locations are like kaiju bait, essentially. So the idea of like an airport, which is one of the listed locations, they're like, kaiju love airports, and if they get anywhere near them, they want to smash those airplanes. Like, it just automatically. I think that's such a fun like understanding of the silliness of sometimes these big monsters who just need to get in there and start swatting things out of the sky. Yeah, so there's some fun stuff. I'm trying to think of.
I'm excited about the adventure generator. One of the things I've really started to notice over the last year or so, there are some new systems coming out there where part of your goal, part of the build-in process is that it's giving the opportunity for the game master to be able to create an adventure on the fly a little easier than just having to create everything off the top of their head, which I think is a lot of fun. I know we've had to mention some of the audience are already asking questions. One of the ones I believe Sam had already answered is the basics. So like, what kind of dice are needed? Surprisingly, this is not a dice RPG. Sam, do you have the box? There we go. Yeah, so it is a deck builder. It's a card game. So everything works with cards. Ellen or Chad, do you want to kind of give a breakdown on how that works?
Yeah, Chad, why don't you take this one?
To answer the previous question before we move into this, I'm sorry, guys, but I'm going to build Titanosaurus for my first monster. It is a monster from Mechagodzilla, the second movie. That was the first Godzilla movie I ever watched, weirdly enough, and I love that creature. So I'll be making them. But to answer the question, this game runs off of actually 2 decks of cards, one controlled by the DM, the deck master, and one controlled or interacted with by the players. The deck master's deck fuels things like their crisis clock, which tracks major events that occur throughout the game, as well as helping them decide things like how the antagonist will be attacking the players and all that sort of stuff. The flip side of that, with the player deck, that will be interacted with by the players. It will creates their hands and how they build up their bonuses for achieving objectives or defeating challenges, is what they're called, right, Ellen? Challenges. And those are those all kind of combine with your character sheet and your traits and your abilities as well. But they really are the core game mechanic is all about the cards and how you use them. And there's a wonderful strategy element to the card deck specifically, where if you can match the suit of the card to whatever your challenge is, right, it automatically acts as a 10 on anything. So as long as your hand and the cards in your hand match what you're trying to do, you're already sort of at an advantage. But even if you can't, even if like you're trying to do a strength check and you don't have any suits that work with that, you can always still play cards to boost up your bonus. There's no real negative to throwing down cards from your hand to boosting a bonus. And then the other thing the player deck does is it acts as and Ellen will have to correct me on this. I want to say it's a fake card. It's off the top of the deck. We've changed it a few times over the
Chance card.
Chance card. That's what it's called now. Chance card. I think that's what it was called at PAX as well. To be fair, just my brain is jumbled with as many terms as we use. But during every challenge, you turn a chance card over off the top of your deck. If it's a black suited chance card, so the spades or the clubs, that's added to your total bonus. And it can really help you succeed in these fantastic ways. And if you get really high bonuses, you get rewards for succeeding, which is awesome. And then the flip side of that is if you flip over a chance card and it's a heart or a diamond, it's subtracted. So that's sort of our RNG element for the game is, black suited cards, the spades and the clubs, bonuses when they're a chance card. The red suited hearts and diamonds, they're the negative, and that's really what determines if you can or cannot succeed on a challenge check. And if you get really low, we don't have like a natural 1 thing where it's a critical failure, but we do have like more detriments the lower that you get as compared to your chance number.
To be fair, there is a mechanic where if you draw one of the jokers,
that's true. That is our natural 1 element, I guess.
Yeah, it's like the natural one, which I love. Here we have our Jet Jaguar art. If you guys, I don't know if the audience can see, but we've got Sam holding up the Jet Jaguar art on there, which is so fun. I think his little pose.
Yeah.
And I'll be forthright. It was as a result of playing in Philadelphia last November that I finally decided I should look more into Godzilla after 30 years of not having engaged with it as much as I should. The new Apple TV Plus show is great. I have the first 8 Godzilla K-Side books right here next to me as well, and the first Escape the Dead Zone, a couple of the others. And what threw me for a loop was Jet Jaguar. It was just like, who is this? So you better believe I am now obsessed with this wild, like 60s, 70s era character who fits so well into like an arguably much more grounded Pacific Rim-esque storyline.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun for people, which everyone should go read the Kaisei era stuff. It's really great. Jet Jaguar is a central character of the main ongoing story for the Kaisei era. But the hook is, or the trick is, that Jet Jaguar in this universe can only speak by singing the lyrics of his 90s TV show. There we are. There's the cover of issue 1. So that's a very silly, I think, little Easter egg for longtime fans of Jet Jaguar. And he's so fun. He's essentially, I believe it is that he's like essentially been like partially decommissioned. He was working for G-Force Japan for decades as like their main defense against Godzilla. But after so many years and decades of wear and tear, he has been partially decommissioned and is sort of like on loan or has been transferred to American G-Force and is now like assisting their teams over there. So he's working alongside a team of mainly American G-Force members. And then there's also another transfer from G-Force Japan who is working with a team named Dr. Rumi Chiba, who is our very cool scientist who really understands that like to defeat the kaiju, you must understand them. She's really cool. I love her a lot.
And I'm going to ask you about a marketing nightmare, which is a question for the future. With so many other IPs under IDW that obviously have some game licenses outstanding that IDW doesn't hold currently, but fully acknowledging the very fun storylines like Godzilla Power Rangers, Godzilla Ninja Turtles, honestly, even like a side story for Skate or Die. Is there any hope currently to have DLC, if you will, or further supplements in the future that highlight some of these other stories and IP lines, assuming you get the rights and assuming this is a successful project?
Yeah, so me and Chuck kind of tag team this one. Yes, absolutely. We don't want to do additional material. Speaking on the thing of the crossovers we've done, the licensing on that is more complicated. So those comics are essentially, they're a project between us and other companies. So Godzilla and Power Rangers is IDW working alongside Dark Horse Publishing, because they work on the Dark Horse Publishing is the one managing the standard line of the Power Rangers comics. So there's a lot more factors involved in something like that. But that being said, we'd love to do additional settings and source material for Godzilla. So Chad, if you want to talk about that side of things.
Yeah, I mean, just from the Kaisei universe, we've already like started discussing sort of internally, like when we actually started the project, these were discussions we had of like, okay, well, so how are we going to approach Dead Zone and how are we going to approach Starship Godzilla? Which to the audience, if you guys haven't read Starship Godzilla, I would suggest Starship Godzilla, because out of the three, I think that one's my favorite, to be honest. There's something very fun and space operatic about it. But so we've already started having those conversations about like, okay, so how do we address those? How are we going to take those? And how are we going to do those sort of as supplements for the future? And other things that I know that have been brought up is the current game is very much inspired by the Kaisei era. And we've always stated, though, that just because it's inspired by the Kaisei era doesn't mean you couldn't play any of the other eras with these same rule sets. But there's always opportunity, I think, to maybe fine-tune a couple of those eras where it's more about, like for any of the old Heisei movies, it's more about like, less about the individual and more about the like, can your team command the military that we have to like fight back, or something along those lines. Not saying that's like the rules we'd be using, just there's other game mechanics to sort of be inspired by and look into when discussing those other eras. And I think, you know, as long as the base game does well, those are all conversations that I know Ellen and I are very excited to be having, and I believe that our company would also be very excited to be having as well.
Yeah, specifically for things like, we get a lot of questions. If you haven't seen, you can also go on the Kickstarter and leave comments. We're responding as frequently as you can there. People have been asking there about the inclusion of aliens in this game. And to me, when we were talking about it, because aliens are a big part of Godzilla, when we were talking about it, to me, talking about space and aliens, that's a whole other setting book. That's so much information to tackle. That's a whole separate rule set. So that's a sort of thing we'd love to expand on in an additional rule set down the road, or additional adventure down the road, to really flesh out those types. That being said, we still do talk about the relationship of like the Zillions or the or Nebulon to like the Kaisei era, even though they're more distantly related and they haven't yet shown up in the main ongoing. We're still interested in the idea of them coming in eventually. So we do have rules for alien antagonists, but they're more minimal than they would be if we did a full expanded Starship Godzilla adventure or setting book.
Of course. And I'm sure enough people would be satisfied just with the notion of having the rules needed to fly around in Mechagodzilla, but that's a whole other conversation.
Right. Yeah. In Starship Godzilla, they fly around inside a changed, like a, what would you say, a repurposed Mechagodzilla that they've turned into a spaceship, and it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's
this has become a thought process for my D&D game right now, because we have a giant mechanized creature that is flying around, and because of this, and then our special report on Friday of last week, now they're both, that's what they're coming up with. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm
flying that metal dragon, James. You can't stop me. Before we move too far from it, unless you had something, James, I was going to ask how, and Chad, you touched on this ever so slightly, but how IDW Publishing and your games team came to cards, as opposed to dice, as opposed to Jenga Tower, so many other mechanics. What inspired you all to explore this card system?
That's definitely a question for you, Ellen, because you were there from the sort of origin point for that.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, one, cards are pretty. And on the production side, we've got some really cool card designs you can check out. But what it came down to is when we decided we wanted to start getting into TTRPGs, we knew we wanted to do a new system. One, because we wanted to make IDW TTRPGs feel really unique, but also have a shared mechanics system. So the idea that they all feel like they're from the same family was really appealing to us. So that when we do other games in the future, they will also use a version of the mechanics we built with the Godzilla game originally. The other thing with this is for building a new mechanic system, there's a couple different things to keep in mind. One, for me personally, is it's really important to me that I didn't want to just build a system that was really close to existing systems, right? So there's been so many dice games that world has been explored so thoroughly. There have not been as many card-based RPG systems, even though there are some, and those are great. There's a lot more room to explore there. So to me, it was really interesting to look into cards for that reason, because it felt like, well, if we're going to build something new, I want to give back to the mechanics conversation that is happening in TTRPGs. And I thought we'd be more equipped to do that and carve out something unique with cards. And then, the other reason for cards is unlike other random generators or even a tarot deck, because to be specific, we're using a 52 card deck, a standard like bicycle set card deck. That's the sort of thing you can pick up at your gas station that they use at any casino anywhere in the world. Though that might be true. I'm sure there's other different gambling cards internationally that I'm not aware of, but the standard 52 card deck. And for that, it was similar to how when RPGs started, they used D6s because D6 is something people just had already, right? Like they had them for other random games they were already playing, other board games they were already playing. And that's a similar thought on this, is we didn't want to do something like tarot that, even though they're common, is more customized. And also each tarot deck is a little different. It will have different sets of cards. A 52 card deck, we all inherently understand. We all know exactly, we all know what's in there. Also kind of delineates this from being a trading card game or a collectibles card game, which it's just not that. It is truly meant to be a TTRPG based around this is the random mechanic. So all of those reasons combined kind of made cards the right choice for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's incredibly cool. And I love the accessibility in that, especially like you said, how most TTRPGs began only with D6s. If you only have the funds to buy the core book right out the gate, then you have a standard deck of cards sitting around. Although I do have to say, despite my having this copy right here, I love the quote unquote not yet final art for the deluxe card set that's on the Kickstarter. It's going to happen.
The deluxe art set cards ended up turning out just like fantastic looking. We were very happy with how those ended up.
I'm sure the proofs that were sent over are very coveted amongst your team members and may find their way to a variety of homes. Yes.
Chad, I would actually love, Chad, just to like highlight the Kickstarter for a second. Can you talk about like the varieties of cards we're doing for it and like any other products that would be fun to call out just so people are aware of what we're already doing as part of that?
Yeah, sure. So for the Kickstarter, we sort of have 3 major tiers. I think there's 5 tiers for the Kickstarter. The 3 major things you need to look at though are the starter set, the core rulebook, and then like sort of the master tier, right? Where all the fun stuff exists. And the core rulebook is fantastic because the artwork on this core rulebook is going to be a Kickstarter exclusive cover. We've already unlocked a couple of advancements for it where now there's going to be satin ribbon and some embossing involved on the cover. Any retail version of the book that we do for this is going to have a completely different cover. It's going to be far more normal hardcover, sort of flat, no additions to it type thing. So this is really a special Kickstarter exclusive cover for this, which is great. And then our starter set really does come with everything you need to get started. It comes with 2 decks of cards, one based off of G-Force, which is the one that you were showing off a little bit earlier. And we also have a new design for a kaiju deck of cards. It's far more primal, far more, a little more, I refer to them mentally as like the caveman cards because they look like cave paintings, but they're great looking. It also comes with a DM screen, which just got actually upgraded due to a stretch goal to a cardboard core instead of just a cardstock DM screen, which is amazing. It also comes with the quick start rules in there, a quick start adventure. It's a really great set for the value. Then the fun tier comes with 3 sort of like really fun additional products, which is now a giant size, and you guys probably saw these at PAX, these giant size play mats, which I totally have somewhere in my room. That's like 36 by 16 inches. They're huge. They're meant to sit at the center of the table and sort of be the protective playmat for all of the players involved. We also have at that level the deluxe card set, which are going to be these black-backed cards. They are inspired by, but a little bit more luxurious version of the GeForce card set. They're going to be foil stamped. They're going to be amazing. And then the final big product kind of at that top tier is our Godzilla. I hesitate to call it a miniature because it's going to be a pretty big miniature, but yeah, it's a good size miniature.
Not quite that big.
Yeah, but it's a good size. It's a good size little guy there, and that one's also marked as not final art. As on the Kickstarter, we are getting closer and closer to that final art, and I shared it with the team last week, and Ellen's comment was, "That looks wild." So as soon as we get like all the I's dotted and T's crossed on that particular one, I will be hopefully doing a community update with the final art soonish, so you guys can all see. But I gotta say, it's looking really good. It looks very kaisei, and it's gonna be a fantastic miniature. So.
And if you don't mind me asking, knowing full well that this is largely a card and sheet based game, was the miniature just because miniatures are awesome, or are there plans in the future to expand on supported terrain or anything of that nature? I'll take it's just awesome, but I'm curious.
So we have the happier answer. There are some maps in the game. So the game does, now we use it's a hex-based map, and as you guys saw in the playtest, which one thing I really love about our combat system is that it is sort of it's more a theater of the mind, even with additional maps, because in a game where you're fighting something the size of a skyscraper, it doesn't really matter if you're standing right next to it or 20 feet away from it. It really matters, are you within half a mile of it? So the scale our maps work at are about, I'm gonna get my units wrong, but it's like half a kilometer or a third of a mile. I can't do my conversion right, but I'm pretty sure that's the scale of it. And each hex is about that large, and the mini is meant to sit on the map for the starter set adventure if you'd like it, and then you'd have to scale up any maps presented in the book. So in our adventure generator, there are actually quite a few, how do I put it? They're not quite blank, but base maps that you can interpret for your own adventures, and it also tells you how to use the hex grid. But you'd need to obviously upscale that to print at your own table, because the base of the mini is, I think, about 3.5 inches in diameter. So to print, and the hexes are generally, and he sits essentially on one hex at 3.5 inches.
Oh.
And the hex maps that we have in our book are about 13 hexes wide. So obviously they're scaled down to fit on the actual page. So if you wanted to print at scale, you would either have to find a very large printer, print on multiple sheets or something like that. But yeah, it does use hex maps. It's much more about like the wide range. Like it covers, like one of them is like a coastal city. So it covers like the downtown area, the parks and all these things. So it can really show like these kaiju rampaging across a region, which I think is really cool.
And for anybody who hasn't had a chance to see the art, either on social media or on the Kickstarter page itself, it, in its non-final art form, is positioned around what appears to be not yet toppled buildings, giving you a really good sense of scale, and that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm glad you even noticed that, because like I said, I thought they were toppled buildings, and you're like, no, they're not toppled yet. And I was like,
not those ones. Yeah,
not those ones. Those are small buildings. Like I guess for me though, like I'm thinking old school Godzilla for this part, so it's like the skyscraper should at least be to his waist type feel, but no, this is awesome. And I'm going to be that person on stream too and say, hey, get us to 175. I want my royal treatment.
I want to know what it is. We're not going to ask. I want to know what it is. Yeah.
Well, it's a book too, so I'm like, I'm a sucker for good books.
Can you give us a teaser of what that might look like, Chad? I don't know how much we're.
What I can definitely tease on that is when we were setting up these goals, my thought process was definitely in line with, I want to make the book as special as possible, and so I can let you know that the next one is going to further increase the exclusivity of the book, with some fun little additions that will really make, like, if you have this book and you're playing Godzilla with your friends and they all have the retail version, they will be jealous.
Perfect.
My mind is saying pop-up art, and even if I'm wrong, I'm still excited now.
Just the centerfold would be perfect of just the pop-up giants.
Oh my gosh, we're not doing that. Stop, cut the recording. Stop saying these things.
No,
I said that would be awesome. I didn't say it was being done.
About a year from now, once it's retailing, somebody will put that as an insert on Etsy, and we can all celebrate that. Yes.
There we go. That's how it works.
More than Etsy.
Mm-hmm.
So silly.
All right. I will buy 10 if there's a pop-up. I can feel that. A lot of people, I think, with even just to insert it, be like, okay, it wasn't there for real, but I can put it in the book and now it's open. Perfect.
Yeah, we won't put that on these two though. That'll be something we discuss with the community later. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We'll community project this later on.
Well, and so we had James and I, we were lucky enough to sit down at a table with Ellen. We know Chad was right next door running games as well. I don't think it's a secret because it's been put on IDW that the two of you, if not other team members, will be doing the same at the upcoming PAX East event. But what is the next step beyond this Kickstarter and PAX East to continue to demonstrate this book that everybody should be really excited about?
Well, we're starting to talk about live plays and play testings. I know we've been even having some conversations over here, which I don't know when you guys are talking about stuff, but yeah, we're putting up quick start guide videos on understanding the game, so keep an eye out for those. I know for me as a player, as a DM, I think actually, apart from the first time I played RPGs when I was like 10, the next time I played RPGs as an adult, I was a DM first. Like, I started there. So I know as somebody who starts as a DM, it is a lot easier to get into this if you just hear somebody talking about it, watching a live play. So we're working on those. We want to start getting those out. We're going to continue doing more interviews, more community engagement. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. Chad, is there anything else? I know we have more conventions as well that we're talking about doing stuff out, I think.
Yeah, there are a few. There's nothing confirmed yet on the convention side. There's always, IDW as like a company is always planning for these future conventions. So IDW Games' sort of inclusion in those conventions is always part of that conversation as well. I know that I believe we should be continuously hosting the demo book for any future players somewhere on the IDW website, so that people can always go there and get a taste of the single player demo, which if you guys haven't gotten to play it yet, that's also available on the Kickstarter page. If you scroll down a little bit, it should be right above the mechanics section. There'll be a graphic that says click here for the demo book. You can download it for free. It's a single player run through. It was I want to give like a lot of props to both the creators, but also Ellen, because she was like the one that came up with this idea when we were talking about it. And it turned into this really good thing where, like, at the convention, we were like handing out these books and people were just like, this is a great idea. I love this idea. I can go home and play this in the hotel room. And we're just like, yeah, that worked out really well, actually. So we're going to continue to host that so that people can always get a taste of it. I also have some feelers out. Yeah, that one. To some local game stores about maybe doing live plays there or something. So there's a lot of balls up in the air, I would say, right now, and we're just trying to have the conversation about where our efforts are put best.
And I'm sure you're familiar with and have probably discussed Free RPG Day, where a lot of people send out leaflets just like that one. But some of my favorite games I play at home are ones that I discovered by way of picking up those exact styles of booklets, where my personal Godzilla RPG from PAX U it's in the bookshelf behind me over here. But yeah, I also think that's a great strategy, because when James was kind enough to set up that meeting with you and your team, and we were able to sit down and play with you, you sent over the PDF variant of that, and he and I, at various times of the day during a convention that was already far too busy, we're just kind of like, all right, let's keep reading. Okay, this sounds really cool. cards, huh? And it really helped us to have a better understanding by the time we landed at the table. Quick shout out, by the way, somebody else who played at the table with the three of us, Ellen, James, and I. Micah is in the chat right now. So, hey, Micah, so glad you're here.
Hey, buddy.
He was part of the Sea Slug squad, which was our designated squad. So, cheers.
It was our squad. We were the Sea Slug squad. Yeah,
You guys did so great.
it was so much fun. Like it was
We
so much
crushed it.
fun. And yeah, if we want to, we can definitely break out the news of what we were talking about earlier, and that is that if you don't get it, it's going to be presented at PAX East. But if for some reason you can't get into a demo, which I know they're going to be packed, we're going to be doing a one shot here with potentially Ellen or Chad or one of the Misfits, depending on how they feel after PAX East, because we all know that con crud is a thing. Pray that nobody gets sick. But we're going to be doing a one shot here on the Misfits. I was working on the overlay for it all last weekend, and it looks phenomenal. I can't wait. One curious thing I'm going to ask though is, and that's going to be done on the 31st because we just didn't say the date. Is we're trying to figure out the best way to do it online. Can every person have a deck of cards, or would you need only one group of people to have a deck of cards?
So the players all share one deck, and then the DM have their deck. We'll link you up with some. There are some free simulators that we actually used in playtesting because our three writers, Mark, Jerv, and Gav, are all in Nottingham.
Oh wow!
Just like Warhammer Studios Mecca, that's where all of them, and then a lot of them are, they're ex-Warhammer guys, so like they all live there, but we're here. So for our weekly meetings to discuss mechanics, we were using these like shared card platforms.
Awesome.
So we can link up with one of those to use for the players. That's a great call.
Definitely. We would love that. Because I was looking for a couple of them over the weekend, and I was like, I don't like any of these. They're terrible. So,
and we're sure nothing's perfect, but you all found the one that works best for you. Because I was literally testing stuff out on, and I believe it's literally deck.of.cards.
If I'm testing.
And it wasn't my favorite. So we'll be curious to see what you suggest, and whether or not, if this has a big online following once the game is released, if IDW would ever put together their own
version of it. Yeah.
If this is the engine that'll power games going forward, that could be cool.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I mean, again, it's a thing of we're just getting started, and it depends on response and demand and what becomes an option. So we're definitely still open to possibilities. It's just nothing confirmed at this point.
Of course.
And let's talk about demand, because I mean, 1,500 backers, and it's pretty good. Not gonna lie, it's solid. $168,000, 175. That's the goal, people. 175.
We're gonna get there.
At least.
Just over 2 weeks remaining. I think we got this.
Yeah, we got this. And if you're gonna be at PAX East, go check this stuff out. Once again, I know Sam and I have kind of gloated about, or oogled about it, but like when you start seeing the mats, you start seeing the cards up close. Is there anything that we didn't see at PAX Unplugged that you will be presenting at PAX East for people that maybe have already played or have seen it already and they're curious what's next?
Updates, improvements, etc.
Yep.
What do you got on the product side? I can think of a couple art things, Chad.
Nothing product wise. Like the same merchandise that we had at PAX Unplugged is the same merchandise we will have at PAX East.
Okay.
So nothing really new there. If you're at PAX East, swing by the booth. We are going to have a promotion going on for new signups, where you'll be able to get some free books. That's sort of the big, I think, product side of things.
Awesome.
And then art-wise, we will have all the character art for those pre-written characters you guys are playing. There'll be updated character sheets. There will be some cool adventure art we'll be able to show off. We'll have the official map as well. So these are all things that at PAX East were still very preliminary, but now we have all the official art so we can show off and hang out and do all that stuff. It's really exciting.
Awesome. We're closing down on the special report, but before we do, I want to make sure that everybody that's in the audience right now, if you have questions, this is the best time to ask them. I know we've been talking a lot about the Kickstarter and about how the project was built, but let's get your questions answered. Sam, while you're looking, can you kind of double check, make sure we didn't miss any?
Oh yeah, well, I'm gonna look for a couple of questions here, but we ideally have some people who are either watching now, will watch on Twitch later, or will watch this interview on YouTube between now and next weekend, or next weekend, next weekend when you're in Boston. And to help them get excited not only about the Godzilla role-playing game, Ellen, Chad, if either of you are willing just to explain like your love of actually playing TTRPGs and not necessarily why people would want to come sit at your tables, but reasons to get enthused about RPGs alongside you, just by way of your personal experiences. And then James and I will look for some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to go first on that one, Chad?
Yeah, sure, I can. I mean, I've been playing RPGs for, I want to say most of my life, which is scary because that just proves how old I am, I think. I have a Star Wars RPG that has been going on since I was like 19.
That's awesome.
About 19 years now. And we will finish it sometime before I die, I swear. But RPGs, just in my life, and I think in a lot of people's lives, is a fantastic like community within communities. Like you have your friends group, but then you have your RPG group. And your RPG group is sort of like a different level of closeness because it's usually a bunch of adults or young adults that have all sat around and decided we're all gonna play pretend together again. And we're not going to run around and try and hit each other and yell fireball. And well, we are going to yell fireball, but then there's a dice involved or some cards involved instead. And there's nothing else where you really get to do that. Like video games is not playing pretend; it's interacting with the screen. Magic the Gathering is not playing pretend; it's playing with cards. Which don't get me wrong, I play tons of video games with Magic the Gathering too, but there is something special about role playing games where it's a group of your friends and you're all just like, for the next 4 hours. I'm a Spartan, and you're a Dryad, and this is a Dwarf Cleric, and like that's just what we all are for the next 4 hours, and we're all going to accept that, and we're all going to just have fun telling a story together. And like storytelling is such an inherent part of being human that the fact that we get to turn that into a game, I think, is just very fun, and always something I look forward to. Anytime any of my friend groups are just like, I'm thinking about starting up a role playing game, I'm always just like, and.
Excuse?
You are. Let me tell you of this character I have. They're an orc that thinks they're a tooth fairy. This is an actual character I have, and I adore them. But yeah, so there's something very special about the community and the actual act of storytelling. I think RPGs bring to the world.
Yeah.
Preach.
Ellen?
I'm so jealous of your 19-year-long game. That's so amazing. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
right.
So my relationship to TTRPGs is that I am a proud and excited forever DM. There have been key occasions. So actually when I played with Micah on a different stream that we were both on a long time ago, I was a player, but I came to that as somebody who's usually a DM, and I actually really love being a DM because to me, I am first and foremost a storyteller. That's what got me into writing. That's what got me into editorial, and TTRPGs are just an extension of that because I think it's the most fantastic experience is to get to tell a story. And what better way to get to tell your friends a story than a story that is about them? Like you're getting to help your friends be the heroes. Like I am a DM that is like, I want you guys to beat me so bad. I want to see you guys achieve all of your dreams. I am rooting against me the whole time. That is my joy. So for me, TTRPGs are just one of the most fantastic ways to give back to your friends. Like as a DM, I love the feeling of like making something and seeing my players enjoy it. And yeah, it just makes, I have a group of friends that I've been DMing with, and I love being people's like gateway to D&D or gateway to RPGs because I have a lot of non-RPG friends, like I work at a comics company. So it's like not everyone there is necessarily TTRPG people, but I love when people come up to me and be like, So I was thinking about like D&D, like, can you tell me anything about it? I've never played before. And I love being the person that can kind of like give them that olive branch and explain, even if they don't end up playing with me, I love being somebody who can be like, no, it's not that crazy. Like, it's like this really fun, silly experience, and whatever you've heard about it, some people will be, people will talk about like the wildness of RPGs and like, oh, it's so nerdy. I'm like, it's really whatever you want it to be. Like, I think anyone can have fun playing a TTRPG if they find the one that fits them. So yeah, I love them, and I think they've been a big part of my life for a while. I used to run games at freelance through startplaying.com. That was how I like kept ends meeting for a year or so there. And you meet a lot of cool people through that. And I just can't believe I'm now at a job at a company like IDW where I'm actually getting paid to make them. It just sounds incredible. It just sounds like a little 10-year-old me who played like 3.5 or whatever it was back then. I can't even imagine like telling her like, hey, you're gonna like, this is gonna be your job one day. Isn't that cool?
That's
That's
awesome.
so cool.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what we like. It's funny we talk about the idea of that, but then a lot of times, especially in the tabletop community, it's what it is. We're coming back to our childhood. We're coming back to what we really enjoyed. And on Chat's note, I think it allows us to, for those 4 hours, nothing else matters. Like, your goal is to save the princess or kill the dragon or whatever your goal is, but it doesn't matter that, what you've got to deal with in real life. And you get those 4 hours of just you time with your friends, especially around a table. It's in my opinion, the closest thing to releasing that tension from what you're doing in life. And on your note of the idea of, oh, you said you like to play tabletop role-playing games. Yeah, every time that happens, I get a new project on this channel. That's usually what happens. So I have this idea.
So I had this crazy idea. And that's how Sam came aboard, and that's how Alex came aboard, and all of our misfits have kind of come aboard with that kind of notion. And that's why we reached out. I think Godzilla was such a cool opportunity, and PAX Unplugged, though a great convention, has one downfall, and I will admittedly say it because I say it every time I talk about it. Their system to sign up for games is not the greatest, so we circumvented that, and we reached out to companies and did it that way, and it made life so much easier. And as for we've got 2 questions in there. One I'm not answering. I'm sorry. The other one, the one for the team, is what is the range for player numbers? How many people can actually play at a table successfully? Great question. I think this is always dependent on who your players are and how comfortable you are as a DM running for multiple people. Obviously, it's much more challenging to manage multiple people, like more people at a table. Our game is technically written for 2 to 5 player characters plus a DM. That being said, I actually ran the PAX Unplugged. I think Chad also, you had some where it was 6, using all 6 of the pre-generated characters, and it still worked. The game has a mechanic called Nemesis points, and also like the pre-written adventures essentially say like, oh, if you have this many players, add an extra enemy and give yourself an extra Nemesis point, because without getting into all of the details of how Nemesis point works, as a DM, they're kind of like your version of leveling up. So if the more Nemesis points you have, the harder the enemies are to defeat. So we provide those things for the pre-written adventures, and you can scale things up or down. I think I'd be really curious to know how many years of research it took for the big name games to find out how much skew there was, or power skew there was, because I imagine people didn't start getting into the mechanic of like, well, once you have more than this many player characters, like this CR enemy is actually much like more difficult. Like, I think that sort of stuff that is experiential, and that will take many, many years of many different types of tables interacting with the game to really understand all of that. But yeah, we've accounted for it in different ways, but it is typically 2 to 5 player characters, 6 if you're ambitious, but definitely that's a lot. 6 is on that upper end there, just in terms of just a pretty average for like TTRPG size.
Yeah.
And then Sam, I know there was a question for you and I. How long did it take to read the rules enough to play the first time? Ellen ran it through with us in less than 10 minutes before we could actually start the game, which was awesome. The character creation or the character guides were very intuitive to understand. We had no issues, big questions with that. And for those that are wondering, this is only 9 pages long. Like, this is not a big book, and you learn pretty much the basic rules for everything. And then, like Sam was showing off, really it kind of breaks down the rest of that information.
And the quick start solo demo actually does a lot to explain how the character sheet for general play works as well. Because I read that probably an hour before we sat down at the IDW games table and learned way more from Ellen and learned a couple of things that I had misinterpreted. But that was, I realized, a me thing and not the book thing. The book is great, but it felt very playable and approachable just for the 10 minutes it took me to read that in between things James and I were doing. Ellen and Chad did a wonderful job of explaining it within about 10 minutes to give us the rest of the hour to play. And I think it's insanely approachable.
Yeah, and also on that note, thank you. We're really proud of that demo book. Another thing to note is in the starter set adventure box that is exclusive on our Kickstarter, it will include a starter set rules guide, which includes all of the core rules for the system, including that demo book. So the demo book is sort of like a first person solo play where you get the very basics, and it talks you through like how to make a save, how to do a challenge, how to take a luck check, but in their most rudimentary forms. It's not meant to be a foundation, but with all of the other materials in that starter set rule guide, you will have like the basics for anything you need to run that starter adventure. And obviously that would take longer to read. Like the whole starter set rules guide is about like 56 to 60 pages. But the demo is only like 9. So that's your foundation. And with anything, we are putting out as many materials as we can to always help with the learning process. I know people want to learn in many different forms. So we're working on like quick start guides and all of that sort of stuff so people can follow along and learn as they go. We also had a last thing I'll say on that is we had, I believe, a 9-year-old join us at the table, and he picked it up actually really quickly. So at a table full of adults, 9-year-old was able to pick up. But the only thing he had at one point is that he was, I think there was there was like a 5-cent word on his sheet. There was an SAT level word on his sheet that he was like, I've never heard this random word before, but that was the only question he had. Otherwise he was like really understanding it. The math is very straightforward and simple.
And to your credit, as can be expected with any brand new game, the 6 of us at the table were very much just staring at you for the first like 10 minutes of play going, what can I do with that on my turn? And naturally, 20 plus minutes later, each of us were saying something along the lines of, okay, I'm going to take this action, and I'm pretty certain that I can apply these 3 traits, which give me this bonus. Also, I've been holding on to this chance card. Yeah, and so we all went from very new, okay, we know what we're doing, but we don't, to, oh, but have you considered this move by the end of the game in a way that made me very happy. So
yeah, I believe you guys, I'm trying to remember, you guys were immediately going off script with like, I believe you had some fun conflict immediately in the game of like people wanting to go to different areas of the base you were investigating.
Oh yeah, we completely.
We did a 3-way split on you, I'm pretty sure. So you're welcome.
And it was great. It was a fun time. You guys, I mean, there's so many fun mechanics to talk about, like teamwork and all these things, which are also really cool in the game. I think really rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited for people to see it and learn the game, and then eventually tell us all the things we should do better the next version of what we do.
I mean, that comes with the territory, right? Like, but I think you hit it on the head that it's going to take years and years and years to understand exactly the mechanics on how strong leveling, putting 6 players compared to 4 players compared to 9 players could be. And whatnot. So the stress testing, of course, is going to take time and what. For everybody that's in the chat room right now, raise of hands. How many people went back to Kickstarter? I just want to know. Curious. Curiosity is there. Come on, hands up.
Wow, putting them on the spot. But yeah, Okay.
You. Yep. All right. You don't have to, but it was just curiosity.
One note I'll say on that is if you didn't have a chance to get your question answered here, we are still combing through that comment section on the Kickstarter. We're getting to everything as quickly as we can. We have gotten so many amazing questions. We've also done like updates with mechanics, answers, and things like that. So check out the updates in the comment section, and we may have already answered your question, or we may be able to get to it there as well. So.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Especially if you guys have any mechanics questions, definitely put those on the Kickstarter campaign. One of our creators, Gapthorpe, is very excited and jazzed to answer all those sorts of questions. But we got to do an update from him last week, and I'd love to do another one this week. So
Excellent. Well, Ellen, Chad, I know you both are extremely busy with everything that's happening over there at IDW, especially with Godzilla, Kickstarter. Any last things you'd like to say before we close out the special report?
Any last things? I'm so excited. We've gotten such a lovely, warm welcome from everyone in the TTRPG space, and I want to thank you guys for following up with us. And I just hope if this game brings anyone a single fun night of gaming with their friends, we have accomplished our mission. And I am so excited for people to see this game, and I hope you guys love it. And if you don't, that's okay. You know, I think it's a fantastic game, and I'm so excited for people to play it. And I'm excited for people to have opinions. I remember one time when we were talking about cards, somebody, I think it was one of the designers, was like, what if people count cards in the game? Won't that be great, breaking the game? And I'm like, I would be so honored if people were so invested.
that much energy to do that. Heck yeah.
That'd be amazing. A true strategist move. So that's the thing. Maybe if you start counting cards in your Godzilla RPG game, I want to hear about it. I want to know about it immediately. I want to know about your systems.
Listen, if you haven't met somebody who doesn't know how to hold a die so that when they toss it a very specific way, they're more likely to get a specific number, you haven't met a power gamer. They're everywhere.
They are everywhere. They're in every single system. Anyways.
Don't tell me that I'm a DM. That's illegal. That's
Yeah, you also, you know, you find out if you got the weighted dice or you have salted dice or all these other weird things. Anyway, once again, thank you for coming to hang out with us for Special Report. Godzilla role-playing game was an absolute blast at PAX Unplugged. If you're going to PAX East, go check out IDW Games. They're going to be doing demos there during that weekend. And last but not least, if you don't get a chance to, or if you want to see how it's played, come back here on the 31st, as we're going to be running a one-shot with Ellen or Chad or one of us, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have a blast, and we're going to try to take out a kaiju. Maybe we'll see. But until then, hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is our special report on Godzilla, the role-playing game. We see you guys all next week. Actually, next week, because Tavern Talks tomorrow is closed currently because Sam and I will be at GaryCon, which I might slide this into my suitcase and have an after-hour game while we're up there. So we'll see. Anyways, thank you all for coming. We'll see you guys all next week. Good night.